Hey guys, and welcome back to another Unfiltered Gamer board game review. And in today's video, we are covering Nataterra by Game Tribe and Winter. This is a 2 to 4 player RTS style game. Takes roughly about 60 to 150 minutes to play and is for ages 14 and up. And in the game, you're choosing one of 4 civilizations to go to war. You can play as the Naga or the Atari, which are kind of like the Dark Elves, the Beasts, and the Humans. And you'll select one of these factions. You'll set up your faction board. You'll set up your main game board as well as your battle boards. And from there, then you're going to have your own sectioned off portion of characters you'll be utilizing as you go through the game. As you go through the game, there are a number of these phases here. Well, you'll do your movement phase, you'll gather, you'll do combat, and then you'll buy. And you will do these in order on your turn, and then you will pass to the next player's turn, in which they will take all of these phases in turn order as well, and you will pass and continue until the objective has been completed. This is the learning mode objective, which is you need to have 1 point for every victory, and the first to 4 is the winner. We'll talk about how to set the game up, as well as setting the game up for each player, and then we'll talk about how to play the game, and then I'll cover my review. Well, let's get into it. So like I said, Nataterra is an RTS style game. It's similar to Warcraft 1, 2, and 3. It's also similar to StarCraft, similar to Command and Conquer, Yuri's Red Alert 2, my favorite. And basically you're going to have your own kind of world board and your own character board, your tribe board. This is where you're going to be basically building and customizing your units, sending them off into your supply, and then from your supply onto the main game board. To set up the main game board, the first thing you do is take each of the tiles assigned based on the number of players, and in this case I have a 2-player game mode, and you're going to attach them together. Once you've attached them together, you will attach any bonus tiles, these like mountainous type of tiles, and you'll place them on top of certain locations, and it's all illustrated in the book. Additionally, you are going to take 3 of your workers and place them on your civilization's location on the starting game board. In this case here we have the blue human area, it's their city, and you place 3 workers, and the same is said for the Atari, basically the Dark Elf faction. So I've got 3 workers for me, 3 workers for my opponent. Then you'll move on to the outskirts. You will take the hill, forest, swamp, and desert deck, shuffle them up separately, and place them next to the game board somewhere within reach. Take all the extra tokens, such as damaging tokens and markers, as well as your shield markers and dice that you might use. Any bonus game board objective tokens and tiles, as well as other civilizations tokens you will not need. You'll set those aside. And of course, you will select one objective that you're going to be playing with. There are a variety of these different objectives. They're called Fame and War, in which case you're going to select one. Like I said, I have the base mode one selected, which is just win combat 4 times, and that's the one I would suggest playing with to begin with. It's a nice, easy way to get into the game. Now you need your player boards as well as your battle boards. Your player board should be your player's color. You should also have these 2 bonus upgrade tech cards that you'll place face down on the top right-hand side of your game board. And you're going to start with your pool of characters. You'll have 3 workers, 3 of your range units, and 3 of your melee units. They might be different on your game board, but it's basically 3, 3, and 3 on the first top left 3 spots. The rest of your characters are going to go down below in the slots indicated, and you'll just place them all there so that you can utilize them when the time comes. On the bottom left of your game board is going to be your resources. It'll be A, your resource multiplier, and then B, how many of that resource you will start with. And they're indicated. Actually, you'll see a white highlight for each of the located resources here, such as wood and meat and steel. You're also going to get these locations here, these buildings or structures. They'll start face down for the most part. Some might start face up. But in most cases, they'll be face down on the game board, and you'll place the structure tiles adjacent to them as well so that you can utilize them throughout the game. Now, they're different depending on the faction. So for instance, my Atari, these guys only actually have 2 buildings, whereas the Humans, they have 4, and they start with 1 of them. So they're going to have like the Barricade, Farm, Stable, and War Council, and all of them are going to start face down except for the Farm, which begins face up. It's not actually a tile that you can upgrade, you just start with it. Then you're also going to be having these combat boards. You can set them aside at the beginning of the game, or if you're only playing 2 players, I would suggest putting them together so that they're face to face, side by side, so that the 1 reflects the 1 and the 10 reflects the 10 on initiative. This is where you'll be doing battle for most of the game. You're also going to get decks of cards. You're going to be getting your basically action deck. These are called like tactics cards. You'll get them as the game allows you to, and you will play them when the cards allow you to, as well as your upgrade technology cards. You'll start with the first 3, and you'll put the rest of the deck aside in numerical order. This is the only deck that you don't shuffle. It'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to 16. So as you upgrade your faction, your civilization, you will achieve new upgrades, which you can use for your units, as well as some passable things that give you bonus cards and whatnot. Last but not least is going to be your board over here, or your little like style, where you can go ahead and take all your characters out when you need them to place them down on the battle board. So for instance, if I am fighting with a disciple, I can take my disciple card, place it in either the ranged or melee spot, depending on the type of unit that it is, and assign it a variable number based on how many units of that type are in that location that I'm fighting with. So these tiles are strictly used for combat, and you'll take them out when you need to do battle. As well as, of course, initiative markers. For each of the characters, this reflects the initiative of the character, aka when they are going to be able to attack. The last thing, this is just these. These are going to be your player references. It'll explain each specific portion of your turn, whether it be moving, gathering resources, combat, or your buy phase. Have that set aside somewhere. And the rest is set aside. You don't need it. You can use it for another day. These little tokens here can be set aside as well. As long as you have the ones that you need, you'll sometimes use those, but otherwise that is the setup for the game. It's fairly complex, but if you break it down into portions such as the main board, your character boards, your battle boards, and your essential tokens, I think you'll get this one down no problem. So how to play the game now, and I'm going to give you the quick version of this because there's a lot of intrinsicies, especially for each of the different civilizations. There's a lot of little bonuses that they do, the specific characters and how they work, have some unique qualities to them as well as abilities, which I'll cover more in my review as to some of the nuances in the game, but this is the basic rundown, how it is played. And the way it is played is first with the movement phase. On your turn, the player who you choose to go first is going to start with this phase here, and you'll just go down each of these cards here. You can use a tactics card as long as it has that little movement phase yellow symbol, and then you'll move your units. And units must stop whenever they encounter an enemy unit. Whenever you walk into an enemy space, that's where you're going to have combat happen during the combat phase of the game. But if you do not encounter a enemy unit, you can just simply move your total movement speed. And your movement speed is based on each character, and it's listed underneath your character in the unlocked area. So for instance, my workers here have a movement of 2. When you move in this game, you'll choose a character, you will count the number of spaces that are adjacent to each other, and you will move to that location. So if I wanted to go 2 spaces, I could go 1 and 2 and move my worker there. Additionally, you can do that for each character based on their movement. There are a few special rules in regards to how you can move units. Some units to move into mountains will require an extra movement, or going through water will make you stop at that specific tile. So if you don't have enough movement, you cannot continue, or if you go to a certain space, you will not be able to continue no matter how many movements you have left once you walk into that space. What's also important when it comes to movement is where you place your workers. In any of the spaces that a worker is going to exist in this game, those spaces are going to contribute to your resources. Workers give you resources based on the location that they are at. So if I have a worker at food, I'll generate a food. If I have a worker at the wood, I'll get a wood. And if I have a worker on the steel or iron, I will get a steel or iron. So I've placed my 3 workers out. I have moved all 3 of my workers onto locations that will grant me resources, and that's basically it. And you can also follow along on this chart here. It'll tell you, okay, mountains stop movement, and units cannot walk on lakes. So in this case here, you can't go on lakes, and mountains, once you get up on a mountain, you can't move anymore. And some units have sneak too. They actually can get through other units. So there are some unique movement rules depending on the character. Some of them can fly over certain locations, but movement. Move the number of movement for each character, stop where you want. Remember that workers give you resources. Then you move to gathering resources. This one's easy as well. You can play a tactics card. If you have that green gather resources symbol on it, it'll be a green scroll. It's got a little green card here, you can't miss it. Only workers can gather resources, and only if those workers are on spaces that can give you resources. It'll give you the resources that they state. So in this case here, I've got 2 workers that are both on the meat, so I will gain 2 meat from 4 to 6. And I have 1 worker on wood, which will give me a wood from 3 to 4. So I'll move those markers on the bottom left-hand side of my game board. If you have multipliers, you can use the multiplier. So for instance, if my meat had a ×2 multiplier, instead of getting 2 meat, I would get 4 meat. So in this game, you will start getting resources rather quickly at the end game. So you're gonna be able to build some really crazy units. But to start off with, there's gonna be no multipliers. You're just gonna get ×1 for everything. Whatever you get on the board is what you're gonna get here. And that's it. That's how resources work. So moving in resources is pretty easy, right? Just move on the game board, and then all your workers will give you 1 resource for each location they're on until multipliers exist. Then you come to combat. Combat is quite complex in this game. It involves an initiative system where you're going to be using your initiative board here. And it's going to be based on the units that you are going to be occupied to combat in. So for instance, if I have an enemy unit here and an enemy unit and my unit here, they're both in the same space, that will initiate a fight, and I would have to select my unit. I would have to look and find my hunter, which looks like this guy here, and I'll place it in my melee area. And then this one over here is a miner. So they will take this one over here and place it over here. And so now I have my enemy's unit and my unit on the combat board. After I've placed my group tiles, I then go ahead and place my initiative. And like I said, these little tiny initiative markers here, you're gonna place them on the game board. So you'll take that one and place it in the 1 slot. And the same will be said for my opponent's unit. Take the 1 and place that in the 1 slot. The initiative determines who gets to go first in this game. So having higher initiative means your unit will attack first. Then you'll draw a biome card. These are the biome cards. There's desert, swamp, forest, and hills. And based on the class or civilization that you are playing, will determine if you get any benefit from that location more or less. And in this case, we're in the forest. So we are going to draw a forest biome card, and we are going to read it. Well, it's going to say any of your groups gains 2 armor bonus, and it's for beasts. It's pretty nice. So there's a bonus on the bottom and on the top. There are bonuses that can be granted to all certain specific classes, and then a main bonus for a specific class as well. So you'll put those bonuses into action when you draw the card for the specific combat. Each individual combat will have a unique biome card that you will draw to give yourself armor bonus for a period of time, increase on initiative by +1 or 2, etc., etc. Once I've drawn my biome card, I can then use a tactics card. It'll have a foot on it. This is to symbolize a combat card that you will use just before combat begins as far as rolling dice and doing damage. Typically, it might increase your initiative. It might increase your attack power or your defense. If you have one, you can play them. But you don't start with one. Then, after that, you will go on to rounds using an action card, if you would like, or a tactic card before an action. And then all groups take an action. You can either attack or retreat, aka get away. And the way that works is you will take your die, and you will roll it, and you will take that value plus your damage value and subtract it from your opponent's defense, and that will be left with the amount of damage that you deal to your opponent. So if I roll the -1, and this character has an attack of 2, it would do 1 damage to this miner here. You would check the miner to see if it has a defense, in which case it does. Thusly, the 1 minus 1 is 0, and so this unit will take 0 damage. On each of these units, you'll have a number of variable stats. The left-hand side indicates A, the number of units that are the same in the group. So more units equals the units are stronger together. They kind of count as a group, and they do higher damage. It goes from 2, 4 to 6. There's a variety of different units based on how strong they are will give you higher damage multipliers. Then you have the bottom portion, which is going to be your defense, how much total HP you have, and how many wounds, how much, if you're gonna take a possible bonus wound if you don't pay a cost at the end of combat, even if you win. And in this case here, it's going to be if you have 2 damage or more on this unit, you'll have to pay a food in order to keep that unit alive, or it's going to die. And then, of course, it just tells you if it's a melee unit or if it is a range unit, because you'll have to place them in their specific row or column, right? Back is ranged, the front is the melee. If you are in the back and you have a melee unit, that melee unit has to be hit first before they can go for the range. So range have a bit of protection as long as you have a melee unit there to kind of fortify them. And that's how combat works. I roll my die, you'll roll your die, and we'll go back and forth. Once combat ends, typically with somebody either retreating or with a complete slaughter, removing all of one player's units, that is going to initiate. the end of combat. You'll have to pay for your wounds if you have any to pay for, and then you can use a tactics card, and then you'll clean up. You'll take off all the extra wounds that they have. All damage goes away at the end of combat, and you will progress to the next round. There's much more that goes into combat that I could explain in this game, because there is quite a bit of stuff that kind of continues to progress the game being more complex, in the idea of the fact that these units have upgrades that make them more powerful. There's also unique abilities on these units that kind of take priority, as well as there's also racial abilities, like Atari have stone skin, whereas the humans have for the king, which I'll explain in my review more about how all those work. But the general idea is initiative equals who goes first, combat breaks ties, and you're going to use your bonuses from the location that you're in, as well as any bonuses on your character. Roll the die, add up the numbers, minus your opponent's numbers, and that equals damage. If it hits the health, that's a unit removed. At the end of combat, check for wounds. And that's how this basically is going to go throughout the game as far as combat is concerned. And combat is definitely a big portion of the game. It's got a bit more oomph to it than other RTS style games that I've played. After the combat phase is over, you're finished. You're finally finished. You're basically at the buy phase here, which of course you can use a tactic card once again if you're able to, and then you can recruit units from your pool. You can only recruit units that are unlocked, and you will unlock more units and more buildings when you are able to play these tactics cards. Current units in your pool are the top portion, not the bottom. The bottom is your supply, the top is your pool, and the active units are on the field here. And you can pay the cost associated with them in the bottom right-hand side of each of the little squares to place them out onto your locations here. In this case, for a miner, it will cost me 2 food. I can spend 2 food and place out a miner onto my location here. Additionally, not only can you just create or manufacture any units that you want, place them onto your locations, but you're also able to research tech. And your tech, you're going to start with 3 of them. The first top 3 cards are going to be in your hand, and you can play them for either side, top or bottom. And these are upgrade cards or progress cards, basically. One of them might cost a singular steal in order to basically let you move 3 more units up from your pool to your supply, giving you an extra tactic card you can use for combat or other phases. And also this one happens to make your Zealot have a bonus ability, which you will actually take and slot into the Zealot when you pay for this card to gain the benefit of the Zealot for the rest of the game. If you don't want to use that side, instead of paying 1 of the steel, you can actually pay 1 food. That will actually increase your Zealot's health, give you 3 additional units from your supply to your pool, and a bonus tactic card. So you have that option to kind of pick and choose which ones of these you want to play. You can play all of them if you want, as many units, as many cards as you want to play, as long as you have the resources and you want to do so. Some cards are going to actually say, other than draw a tactic card, they might actually say draw an extra one of these tech cards. It'll say, for instance, here, draw the 4 and 5 tech card, in which case you're going to add the 4 and the 5 to your hand when you play that specific card out, and you'll just follow along with whatever they say. Pay the resources, gain the bonuses, draw the cards, whether it be tactic or tech, and progress. And eventually, as you play certain cards, you're going to gain more and more tech that'll unlock more and more things. For instance, there are unique unlockable units, such as, in this case here, I have the Exiled and the Cave Golem, and then my even stronger units, the Dragon and the Manipulator. And if you can eventually flip these over, gain the bonus units when you do flip them over, and I believe it is 2 for each, when you're able to gain these guys. And now you have more unlocked units that you can place out, which will happen later in the game. Additionally, there's also a building symbol on your cards that you can utilize to flip these guys over, and now you can build buildings, which will have to be 1 building per location without a building that has one of your units. It's pretty simple, standard RTS style gameplay. And after your buy phase is resolved, you'll stop buying and resolve any effects or bonus effects on the cards next to your main board, discard everything, and slide them behind your current unit so that you now have upgrades. And that's it. You move on from there to the next round and the next round and progress until somebody meets this condition here. And in this condition for the first practice round is simply to do 4 combats or win 4 combats. And that's actually not a super short game. You'll actually have some meat and potatoes in even the learning mode because combat is involved. And when you choose to make combat a priority, will be up to you as to how you want to play this game. So that is Nataterra in a nutshell. We'll talk about my review now. So now it's review time, and also where I talk about a few more little details involving Nataterra. Additionally, that I played with a buddy of mine, and she is a pretty, she's pretty picky on the type of games she plays. She's also a little bit more like, I don't like that, or I like that, and the good thing about this game for her is that this game met the standard. It passed the smell test. She enjoyed all the aspects to the game. Yes, there are some small issues regarding some misprint errors and that kind of thing, but this is a prototype, so don't judge this game based on the fact that it is a prototype and it will be changed and updated. There's going to be things like, for instance, for us, we had like a missing 5, and we had 2 11 cards in one of the tech decks. Some of the different words and phrases were kind of out of order, but I'm sure this will all be kind of satisfied at the conclusion of the Kickstarter. But just to let you know that that was like the main thing, having to kind of parse that out. With a game that's so big, a few errors here and there, a few rulebook changes. They've already completely updated the rulebook, which I have looked at. So there are unique things that are being added and changed to the game, which by the time it comes into your hands, will most likely have all these little small problems fixed. Okay, cleanup is done. So how does this game work? Well, this game is an RTS. This plays similar to like Command & Conquer, or like, I'd say more like the original Warcraft or Warcraft 2, where you have your worker units, they go out and gather resources, you use those resources to build buildings, you use them to create more units, and then you use them to upgrade your tech tree. Your tech tree is pretty simple. It's 1 to 15, and then you are playing them one at a time in any order you want, as long as you have them in your hand, which will then allow you to gain new ones to then upgrade your units, give you more of these tactics cards, which there's a small amount, but you're not going to be using a whole lot of them throughout the game for most of the civilizations. Some of them are going to reflect differently. Speaking about civilizations, they all play differently. For instance, my Night Elves here only have 2 buildings, the Underground Tunneler and the Outpost, whereas the humans have 4. They've got the Farm, Barricade, Stable, and the War Room. Their farmer is going to give them more food, so they are more of a building style race. They're more of an upgrading style race. They have barricades to give them defense, and stable to give them bonus movement, and then the War Council to give them additional damage. Whereas the Wood Elves here are going to be more prioritizing combat, the tactical cards, as well as the bonuses that you have, like the Outpost here. Your units in affected zones gain Feint and a bonus attack at the start of combat, or the Tunnel, which lets you get from one location to another. This specific race here has a lot more combat efficient units, whereas the humans are definitely more on the defense side of things. And each of the 4 races reflect differently. Some units for different races are going to have unique number of units, and of course buildings, so that can change up, or how you choose to unlock certain things will be different. For instance, instead of these 2 boards where I have this manipulator and dragon that I get to unlock as my second unlock for units, I'll actually have just 1 for another civilization. So it'll be different depending on the civilization that you are playing with. Each of the units, in addition to that, have unique abilities. And without looking at all of these guys, I'll just kind of cover them all in the speed round here, where I explain a few of these things. There's aim, where you can attack the range units in the back line. There's the double attack, where you get a bonus attack with this specific unit. After you roll your attack die, you can re-roll it again. The unit has no movement restrictions when you fly, or if you heal, you get to heal 1 damage per unit in this group for any of the groups before taking a combat action. Pierce, when attacking, you can ignore an armor per unit in the group, and it goes on from there. There is a large variety of different abilities that you will have for your characters, and upgradable abilities as well. Just even looking at my basic starting cards, most of them are all going to be upgrade cards, if not the ones that draw you more cards to give you higher tech upgrades. So if I wanted to make my Zealot a little beefier, a little more HP, I'd use the meat side. If I wanted him to actually be a little bit more cunning, I would use the attack side, and as well as it giving me additional tactics cards. The elves typically will give you more tactics, whereas the humans are going to give you more buffs in defense, as well as buildings that you'll be utilizing. The same is said for the Naga and the beasts. They function a little differently as well. Game boards can change based on the number of players, and there's a way to make your own game board, so you can kind of customize your own unique map. If you wanted to, you can even add even more customization. You could add a Fog of War, I suppose. I don't know how you do that especially, but it'd be cool to see an RTS doing something like that. Combat. So combat is the most complex. You're going to be spending a lot of your time in combat. After I'd say about halfway through the game, combat becomes a big portion to the game. To begin with, it's more about building, controlling locations, protecting your areas, kind of fortifying yourself, and then all of a sudden combat becomes rather a large aspect to the game. You'll notice there's a number of groups that you'll have for melee, as well as ranged. There's your class ability that all your characters get. This one here says that whenever you play a tactics card, the group gains a bonus to defense, so using tactics with these guys is very important. And as you can see, you also have your initiative, which is going to reflect who gets to go first. Remember, attacking is very important because you get to win ties, and additionally, having higher units on initiative means you have the opportunity to attack first. Focus on areas that you think are going to give you a combat bonus when it comes to your field cards, like forests, swamps, hills, and deserts. For the Atari, it's all about the swamps and the forest areas, and for the humans, it's all about the hills and the deserts. And each class and faction has their own unique bonus biomes that are more beneficial, but every biome can help any of the civilizations. You also note that there are damage and HP markers, as well as the defense markers here. You will utilize those during combat, placing them on the boards to keep track of health as progressing. But remember, at the end of combat, it all gets wiped, so you want to do as much as you can, as quickly as you can. And that's pretty much all the complexities. Is just there's more, obviously, depending on each of the characters, they kind of how they function, like getting into detail with those guys, but that's the meat and potatoes of the game. This is a game where you move, gather, fight, and then build. Improve your tech and progress until somebody wins the objective. And in this case here, it's just 4 combats. Pretty simple objective, but still giving you a good chunk of meat. I thought this game was a lot of fun. It's probably a more complex RTS, more in the Civilization, that one Dawn of Civilization game I played. It's got more meat to it. The combat is more involved. There's a large variety of customizations to each of your characters. Each civilization feels different, and while the different phases of the game are not overly complex, each of them requires a bit of thought and foresight, and based on where your opponents are going to move will determine what you do, and so having to wait to take your turn, you can't kind of pre-plan everything. You can pre-plan some things and, best situation type of a thing, but you're going to have to always change on the fly for this game based on what has happened, what type of combat has gone on, and of course the number of players playing the game. If you're set aside, no one's fighting you, you can probably pre-plan your turn. I want to move here, I want to gather these resources, I want to build these units, I want to make these tech trees, I want to place this building. But as the game progresses, it becomes more challenging. Now you've lost these units, now you've not gained these resources, now you're no longer in the position to build this building, and so you have to kind of change up your strategy as you play the game. This is a complex game. It's more on the heavier side, and it's more on the thought side. This has got a lot of strategy, a lot of investment. I would say sit down, prepare yourself for your first game, even for the basic battlefield dominance mode, at least 2 hours. That's what you're going to be doing with this guy here. This is a more heavy RTS style game. That being said, I loved it. This game was a lot of fun. I loved the units. I loved how the game felt. I felt like I was playing this board game RTS. It met a lot of the criteria I have about how a board game RTS should be, as far as construction and placing out units, and the combat style is fun. It can be a little bogged down in combat, and you can feel yourself sitting on that board a little too long, I would say. With more players comes more time the game's going to take, obviously. And if you're not involved in the combat, you might have to wait a little extra longer. That's just how a game like this is going to go. But as you progress and understand the game, understand the combat, it's literally just a die roll. That's what's going to happen most of the time. I roll the die, you roll the die, you either retreat and you take a attack of opportunity, or we keep going until somebody is gone. And that is how the game pretty much works. I love the fact that each faction feels different. I like the fact that the humans feel like they're the building, protecting defense class. The Naga are kind of like the slick, smart, agile attackers that penetrate defense, and they're strong, and they get things done. Whereas the humans are, we're chilling, we're building, oh, you're coming at us? Well, we've got all this stuff now. All of a sudden, my little puny worker has now got 3 extra defense, a bonus attack, an extra this or that, because of all the buildings that we've built around and the tactics we've gained from the War Council, and so that's cool. The art in the game is excellent. I really like it. All the different characters feel different. They look different. They feel like they're attached to their civilization. So I feel like the cave golem and the exile would be fighting among each other, whereas the humans have the sharpshooters and the wizards and the archangel, with a big archangel who feels good to play them. And as you progress in this game, the bigger units, the better you feel about playing them. You can push heavy into tech, you can push heavy into building strong units or fortifying your defenses. You have all the options in the world that you would like for this game. And if you're looking for an RTS game that's on the heavy side, this is one I would strongly suggest. If you get bogged down by rules, if you don't like the complexity of a game that takes about 2 hours to play, even for the basic mode, then this is not going to be the game for you. This is going to take up a large amount of table space and a good chunk of your time. This is a one game, one night typical situation. There's no filler games in between unless you're hardcore or you've played quite a bit and understand the turn flow and can fly through the game. But for your first few times, this is going to be that game for the night that you play. Overall, I love RTS games. It always makes me excited to see new ones get created because a lot of times they don't hit the mark for me. A little too light or a little too complex. And this one fits right in the middle there, which is what I like about it. Nothing overly complex. Each card explains the phase and you can go through it. You don't have to constantly look in the rulebook for literally anything. What is here is pretty much all you need. And once they get the little bugs pulled out of this is going to be one of my favorite RTSs, if not my favorite RTS in memory of a game that I have played, because it just does all the things that you'd expect for this type of game to do. So yes, I recommend it. Thank you guys for watching another Unfiltered Gamer board game review for the game Nataterra. If you're interested, there's a link down below. Kickstarter will be up pretty soon here, so go ahead and push that button, or if the Kickstarter is now, go ahead and go in there and see if it's something for you. Like, honestly, I would just take a look. If you like RTSs in any way, shape, or form, this is what I would look at. It'd be really cool to see miniatures, but I know how expensive that could be. Even like the little tiny miniatures, little tiny buildings. I love that kind of aspect to a game, or having the backside of these boards here have only tiny symbol and a lot more art. That would be really cool. There's a lot of like little cool things I think they could do, but nothing that I gave, like I would say, as like a negative or whatever. It's just that possibilities for a game like this are endless, and what's here already is excellent, and I'm excited to see what is the finished product for this game, because it's a game I'd keep, it's a game I'd play again, and it's a game that I have very specific friends that are going to be very specifically interested in this type of a game. And then of course a lot of my more chill gamers are not going to want to touch this thing within a 6-foot pole because it's just too much for them, and I understand that as well. Go ahead and like that video, comment, hit that subscribe button if you want to see more videos from us. We do a live stream every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. PST, and I'll stream every other week on usually Wednesday or Friday. All right, guys, that's all I got for you this time. And as always, I look forward to RTSing with you in Nataterra next time.